Hey guys, so in this video we went to Mesa Verde National Park, and when we looked at what it was online, we just saw pictures of these cliff dwellings and ancient structures, so we really didn't know what to expect, but we head towards it, and it ended up being a really awesome place that you should definitely check out. Really beautiful. I'd love to go back there. So you enter into Colorado, you see all these crazy formations of rock, and all of a sudden you get to Colorado and there's trees and grass, as opposed to New Mexico and Texas where it's just dry land and desert. You get to Colorado and the color comes back. Colorado is the colorful state, and so you see it right away. All of a sudden, blue sky, mountains in the distance with snow on top, and you get towards Mesa Verde and you go up, and it's this sort of scenic road that loops up and around it with all these viewpoints that you see just really far out, and incredible landscapes and snow-covered mountains in the distance, and it's really beautiful on the way up, and we weren't expecting any of this, so a nice surprise there, and just really nice. Being in Colorado, the air is so crisp and cool, and it's just a beautiful day to be in Colorado and get to Mesa Verde. And we got to a campsite which was first come first serve, and there were people all around, but it was kind of nice because it was bear country, so we had a really nice spot that in retrospect was one of the best. And we started to see deer all around just hanging out. They didn't care that people were there. They're just doing their thing. We got some showers finally. There was more than one sign that said not to shit in the shower, so people were probably doing that. But just deer all up in the park. Real beautiful. We set up one huge tent. You're not supposed to bring this in the park, but Colorado. So we were gonna cook, but it got dark on us, so we gave up on that. And this night we went out and we star watched, and we saw probably the most spectacular sky of stars that we saw the entire trip. I saw a meteor break up across the sky and just burn up in the sky for a good 30 seconds, and it was really something to see. Beautiful night sky of stars, and it was just so green and blue and real nice. Did some more driving, and you see shiprock from like 100 miles in the distance. It's a different state, and you can still see shiprock. So you get this panoramic view. I believe it's Sun Point Overlook or some sort of panoramic canyon views, and you just see mountains with snow on top, and it's really something to see. It's one of the best views I've seen in Colorado. It's just panoramic views for hundreds of miles in all directions. Mesa Verde. I think that the Native Americans that settled here and lived here really were doing it right. I mean, they just had the perfect spot, and it was beautiful. There were all these bugs in the bushes making these mating calls. Someone explained what they were, and they're a non-harmless bug, but they're trying to get it on, and we drove out of there. Just enjoyed the views. Then we got to the Spruce treehouse, which is the name of this cliff dwelling, which is really all that I expected coming into Mesa Verde from what I saw online. But there are tons of these cliff dwellings built right under these massive cliffs that they had there. And this one's not the biggest. The biggest is Cliff Palace, and this one has hundreds of rooms, and so does Cliff Palace, and they're entire cities built under these cliffs that house more than 100 people. And this area was populated from 600 AD until about 1300 AD. So people lived there for about 700 years, and they disappeared randomly. It's a mystery why they disappeared, and no one really knows, but they left behind all these archaeological sites and petroglyphs, and it's really, really incredible. And they just disappeared. So we went down the Petroglyph Point Trail, and this trail took us all along and around the Spruce treehouse. And this hike was really cool. It was only about 2.8 miles, but a lot of it was more or less a climb, so the distance was different, and you gained some elevation, and you went up and you went down and you went all alongside this cliff. And sometimes you'd climb up rocks, and sometimes you'd come up on the cliff dwellings, and sometimes you'd be on the top of a cliff overlooking it, and it was pretty awesome. You look right into the canyon. There's all these trees and different sorts of cactus and flowers and animals, and it's a nice and sunny day, and you're sort of shaded by the giant rocks and the cliffs. You pass some people every now and then and have a little bit of conversation. These ancient structures were abandoned in 1300 AD, so over 700 years ago, and they're just still there. Who knows why they'd want to leave this place? Really, really awesome, unique trail. Not just a flat walk. You're really in it in this one. We made some cairns, and we found walking sticks from the trees that were there, and it was a spirally wood, and the walking stick that I had served me well throughout this hike, and we just enjoyed it. We took video and pictures and took it all in. We finally came up on the petroglyph that was way better than the one at Petroglyph National Park in New Mexico. These ones were done pretty artistically, and you see like sheeps and dogs and people and handprints, and they were pretty cool. Over 700 years old. And you just look out and you see all these formations of rock amongst the valley. So this was Southwest Colorado, and I had never been to this area of Colorado before. I had always been up north around Boulder and the Rocky Mountains, and this area of Colorado was very pleasantly surprising. It was very unique and still felt like Colorado. There's a big contrast between Colorado versus New Mexico. As soon as you cross the border into Colorado, it gets colorful, and grass comes back in trees, and the blue sky and flowers and reds and blues and greens and yellows and everything in between. And this area was really nice. It was a nice change of pace coming out of New Mexico. It was bright and sunny, but it was pretty cool. I would say maybe 70 degrees this day. So, great place to be, beautiful views. And we took it all in. All the flowers, being on top of the cliff and looking into the canyons. And we came across this lizard that is probably the most psychedelic looking lizard I've ever seen. It was neon, turquoise, yellow, and orange, and it just stood there, and honestly, it kind of posed. Like, it definitely wanted its picture taken. It's like, look at me. And real cool lizard right there. Just naturally trippy. And there was spirally wood, just the type of things I like. And you come around, and at this point we're actually standing on top of the cliff that the Spruce treehouse is under. So it was a really cool hike. You're maybe 5,000 to 6,000, something like that, elevation around here, and there's probably a couple hundred feet of elevation gain and loss on this short hike. That's about 2.8 miles round trip, but real nice. And these structures took 80 years to build. It's an entire city. It looks small, but it's an entire city with hundreds of rooms and chambers, and it's 700 years old. Longer than 700 years old, abandoned 700 years ago. So there's tons of other places like that all around Mesa Verde, the archaeological structures, but pretty unique to Mesa Verde. So really, really amazing place. I would definitely recommend checking it out if you're ever in Southwest Colorado. Really blew my expectations out of the water. And after that, we head east and we went towards the Great Sand Dunes, which, if you've ever been to them in Colorado, they're pretty crazy, the fact that they're even there. And we passed some pretty awesome things going there. We passed Treasure Falls, which was a spectacular waterfall, one of the best that we saw. And we finally got to the sand dunes, which was about 4 hours away from Mesa Verde, and just massive sand dunes, way bigger than white sands. Not as expansive, but way taller, and they were pretty awesome. And we caught a really, really nice sunset, and we had sleds, and we used the sleds, but also I decided to roll down it, and this was fun, and it was fun to roll down, but I had sand in my hair, in my clothes, in my pockets, in my shoes, in the car, in everything that I had for the next month, all around the whole country. So Mesa Verde, amazing place to go. Really, really awesome. Definitely check it out if you have the opportunity, and stay tuned to watch about Great Sands. Thank you for watching. Hope you enjoyed.